If you wanna stay with me, if you wanna try, maybe you could be with me, but only for the night.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Board Game Specialist. I am Melanie.
And I'm Carla.
And we are on episode 118, and today we're going to be doing our top 9 deduction games. Because we've been on a deduction kick lately. Like, me and Carla have been playing a lot. I think you probably more than me. But this is a game type that we both quite enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
now, we've actually... Yeah, so this actually we're visiting an old list because we already did a top 9 deduction game back on episode 59.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to, in this slide here, we're going to revisit a little bit that old list. And we made a point as well not to bring up games that were on that old list. Now, I looked at my side of the list. I don't know if I made sure I didn't list things that you had mentioned. So we'll have to see how we did on that. But yeah. So before we talk about that, as always, we're going to talk about what we've been playing lately. And Carla, we're going to start with you.
So I've been kind of delving into some Vitellicerda games lately, and I went back to one of my old favorites, which is Lisboa. Now, I relearned it, played it a couple times. I'm actually going to play it tonight again. But we looked back at the last time we played it, and it was 5 years ago. I can't believe it's been 5 years since I played this game. It feels like, maybe 1 or 2, but 5 years. Wow, does that 5 years go fast? But anyway, this game is, there's all different kinds of mechanisms in this game, but it is quite a heavy, longer game. 2 players can kind of go a little snappier, but I've only played it with 2 or 3, I believe. I haven't played it with 4. But this is based on the story of rebuilding Lisboa. So back in, I can't remember the year now, but they actually had 3 days of floods, earthquakes, and hurricanes, I believe was the third one. Like, totally demolished their whole city. Like, it was just unbelievable how much bad luck they had. But then the builder, it's not the president, they call him again, I can't remember, but and then now I can't remember the names of them. All these high up guys decided they had a couple options. They could just walk away from it and just go build somewhere else, or they could literally rebuild the city. And how they would do that is a certain way and have everything kind of squared and lined up and have similar working businesses in one area, and then kind of really, really plan and organize it. And so what you're doing in this game is you're basically rebuilding it. But how you do that is all kinds of different things. But it's one easy, sounds easy play. You play a card and just do what the card says. So it sounds very simple, but that can lead to a bunch of different actions from just the one card. So you'll have this big player board, and you're either going to play a card to the top of it and slide it down, or you're going to play it underneath and slide it up. And when you do that, if you slide it down, you're going to get that top action. If you slide underneath, the bottom action is typically some ongoing bonus. But once you do that, you're either going to trade with the nobles, or you're going to sell goods. And so to sell goods, somebody would have to have purchased a boat. And a boat is a card that will actually be slid down on the top of your board as well. And you can deliver to anyone's boat. It doesn't matter whose they are. Each ship has a maximum quantity of goods it can hold. It's only 1, 2, 3, or 4. And you can sell whatever you want for the market value. As soon as somebody produces goods, they all reduce in price, and they never go up. So it's not one of those sliding markets. It's, as soon as it gets produced, demand goes down, and everything gets cheaper. But when you're selling, you can sell like a bunch of goods of the same kind at once, and it'll only slide over once it's produced. It doesn't, if you produce a bunch of them, they don't slide each time.
Okay.
So they start out at certain areas. Gold starts the highest, and then you have your like books, tools, and I think food is the other one. And so that's one of the actions if you're sliding the card on your board. The other one is trading with the noble. So you'll go to the big game board, and each noble has 2 different actions that are underneath it, kind of sub actions that you can choose, and each noble wants a certain type of kind of bribery thing. So like one of them might want tools. They all will take gold, of course, but one might want books and one might want tools or food or something else. Now, once you pay them, you will get to do 2 different actions on the whole board. So you have to do 2 different things. You can't do the same action. So those actions are kind of things like building in the city. So you're building like a shop. You're getting a new plan. So it's a plan to build a public building. You might be purchasing a boat. You might be getting some decrees, which are a whole line of cards, which you can't see on the sheet here, or on the screen, but it's end game points, and it's all these cards. There's about 10 lined up there, and you can choose as many as you want, and they'll refill after your turn. You can, what's the other thing? You build a public building, and you can also get favors from each of the nobles. So once you get a favor, because there's 3 of them, you can only have 1 from each at the same time. Now, the nice thing about it is when I'm doing an action, if I'm actually placing a card on the noble, so that's a different thing than putting it on your board, then people can follow you. So if I put like out a builder, I put him in the middle of the board, I do my actions, and then everybody else at the table can follow if they have his favor token. So your turn can lead into a big chain of turns from other people as well. And so you kind of put your meeple on that card to show it's your actual turn. So when you finish everything, you know, okay, that was the end of my turn. Now we go into the next. It's just like like so many different things going on, but it all flows. I always find that Vital Lacerda games, they all kind of make sense once you learn them, because they all seem to have like a huge theme to them, and they all seem to flow into each area of what's going on. It all kind of makes sense. It takes a little bit to learn, but I don't have as hard a time learning these big heavy games just because of how he, I don't know, geniusly does it. But this one is one of my favorite Lacerdas, and I can't wait to play it again tonight.
Nice.
So that's the one I'm talking about. What about you?
So my game is a little bit smaller than the one you're covering. And actually, we actually played this one yesterday, and then we played it over the weekend as well, a couple of times. And we played a couple of rounds yesterday, and that's 3 chapters. So this is like a new game that's been released by Abbey. I like it. This is cool. It's a card game. So you have 50 cards going from 1 to 50 in value. 1 of each, and it kind of includes bunch of different fairy tales together. Like there's a bunch of different fairy tales that's all intermingle, and each card will have a different character on it. And it's a trick-taking game, but it's a little different because this plays over 3 phases. Actually, it's called the 3 chapters. In chapter 1, it's drafting. So you're going to get 8 cards. You're going to pick one, you pass them on, and you're collecting the cards that you want. Now, it's kind of interesting with it because you want to pay attention to the cards that you see. So if you get Tweedledee, then you don't want to also take Tweedledum because you get a benefit for playing them in the same trick. So be like, okay, well, I'll take Tweedledum. So hopefully somebody else will play Tweedledee, and then I can try to play it at that same time. So like you kind of plan a little bit that way. So you want to make sure that, yes, you may want to have higher valued cards so you can win the trick. But you also want to plan the characters that you get because some will benefit for different aspect. Now you can see in the card, like you have the number in the top corner. That's the value of the card. There's a little icon that shows different things that is associated with them. So like the Queen of Hearts, she has a villain and then a mushroom. The Humpty Dumpty has a mushroom. The ogre has a monster icon. So those will come into play as well as you're playing the game. So once the drafting is done, now in a 2-player variation, the drafting is done a little bit differently. You do 2 sets of draft of 8 cards, but when it's your turn, you take 1 card for you and 1 card to go into the ghost hand. And there's 2 hands that are played blind that you keep in mind. But so once you've done the drafting, you then go into phase 2. And this is when you're going to play the trick-taking game. So, you'll put a card down and there'll be a value, and whoever wins the trick that plays the highest valued number is going to get a little star tokens. Each star tokens are worth 2 points. So you want to win tricks for the 2 points. But depending on the cards that are played, so the ogre there, you would get like a gem for each type of symbol that is played in that trick. So let's say if it was like a mushroom and those 4 cards there were the 4 cards played in the trick, then he would get 2 gems for those other symbols that were played. For example, it's off screen. I don't remember what that one is, but so there's other ways to score points as you are playing the trick. And the gems are worth 1 point for every 2 gems. And you can also gain hearts, and you gain 1 heart for 1 point for every heart that you collect. And depending on what you play. So like I mentioned, Tweedledee. So if Tweedledee is played at the same time as Tweedledum is played, then you would get to collect a heart. And so would Tweedledum. So like you want to try to get them to play that way. Some is like, if you have the giant that's played and you also play Jack and the Beanstalk, then Jack and the Beanstalk has a benefit for being played while the giant is being played, which is good because Jack and the Beanstalk is a very low number. So he's not going to win a trick, but there's ways of getting points in other ways. Now, some of the cards have like end of game abilities. So when you're done the trick, you kind of give out the tokens as whoever got them, but you keep the card in front of you and you play the next one. So if one of the card that got played has like a chapter 3 icon on the bottom of the card, then that's kind of end of game and you would score that. One was if you didn't win any trick that round or that game. I mean, even if you played, you gain hearts and you gain gems, but you didn't win a trick, then you got 2 bonus star tokens. So there's different things that would come into play. Then after you've played all the tricks and you've kind of tally up all your scores, and whoever has the most points win. One thing is whoever has the most gem at the end of the game gets 4 extra gems. So that can sometimes sway the score a little bit. But we played it yesterday. And at first they're like, what? I'm not sure I understand. But by the time we played the first trick, everybody's like, okay, I get it now. So once we played, it's like, let's play this again because I'm going to draft differently. So we played this a couple times. It was just so well received. It's such an interesting game because it's trick taking, but plus, like there's
you're making your own deck, basically.
You're making your own deck, and you want like kind of pay attention to what you see, and it's like, oh, okay, I've seen Geppetto, so I want to make sure I grab Pinocchio or whatever, right? Like, so you want to try to plan your cards that way a little bit, and then you do the same thing as you play, and it's like, well, okay, I'm not going to play this yet because I want to wait for this card to be played. But then if you're too early playing the card and it got played after you, then it's like, man, I had this one, I would have played on that, So it is really interesting. We had a blast with it. The artwork is really neat. And then all the different fairy tales that's included in here kind of keeps this very interesting. We really liked it. And it plays quick and it's simple and it was just well liked all around. So that was 3 chapters.
Nice. Yeah, that looks really neat. I literally was just watching a video of Kavre talking about this just neat. Earlier, like probably half hour ago. That's why I was like, oh, wow, yeah, I just heard about this game.
Yeah, no, very, very cool, for sure. I did a video on it, so I just need to post it. That'll be going up in the next few days.
Nice.
Yeah. Perfect. So let's get into our top 9 list then. So as we mentioned, we're doing our top 9 deduction games. So before we get into the list, let's talk a little bit about what a deduction game is. And I kind of went with, this is a game where you're trying to figure something out in the game, I guess. Like, do you have a better definition, Carla?
No, that sounds good, because you're, deducing to find an answer. So you need to, exactly what you said.
Yeah, there's some games do it differently, but yeah. Perfect. So we're going to start with a number 9, and Carla, we're going to start with you. Oh, yeah, before we start with our number 9, we're looking at the old list. I was like, episode 59, what did I do? But no, this is not a mistake. This is on purpose. Threw me off there for a minute. All right, so we're going to look at our old list, because we did this, now 59. This was many episodes ago.
Yeah, because we're on, what are we on?
118 now.
118, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I know, right? It's I don't know, it doesn't seem like we've been doing this for that long, but I guess we really have.
We have.
Perfect. All right, so let's have a look at your old list. I have them all listed here. So I don't know why series is so much bigger than everything else. But
yeah, no, I still enjoy all these games. They're all
nice.
Some of those would definitely be in this new list, even though I have all new games here now. But
nice.
I do really like all those games, and yeah, I'm glad I chose those ones. But I know I did look at your list. I don't have any in your list. But now that you see my list, or is there maybe some that are
because I got my list. I got them written down here, and I don't think I have any in here that's on your list. So, because I've since playing this one, there was some on this list that I had not played.
Right.
And since this list, I have played Turing Machine. This one probably would have made my list. I think that one is just so cool. How the game is designed is just so neat and clever, and I love that about it. As well, Hanabi. Now, I played Hanabi before. I had played Hanabi when you made this list. I didn't love this one because I have no memory. And I was like, you know what? This is too hard. I got rid of the game. But when I was at that 4-day board game retreat, we played Hanabi tiles.
Oh, that's
so instead of card, they're tiles, and you put them up in front of you, and they're almost like the size of like a mahjong tile.
Oh yeah.
And then be like, okay, this one is blue, and you'd be like, okay, so I'm gonna put this one over there, and I'm gonna lay it down because I know what the color is. And then if they say, okay, well, this one is this number, it's okay, well, I'm gonna put it in front of the other one, so I know that it's greater than those ones. Or so you can kind of create a visual aid to help you figure out the clues, because otherwise with the cards, like, okay, this one is blue, is like, okay, that one is blue, but you're holding them, so it's not like you can do that much with it. You could like put them a little bit on the side, but then by the time my turn comes again, I'm like, oh, which one was blue? Oh, was it blue? Was it red? Like, like that information was just out of my head. So with the tiles, I enjoyed it better. So that was, and then when they're discarded, if they get discarded, you can kind of see that, okay, so that one was discarded, so that one is discarded, and this one's in play, and he's telling me this is blue, probably because I can play it, so there is tons of deduction to that one, but I found the tile version was so much better.
More tactile, for sure.
Yeah. And I have played Paint the Roses since. Actually, I played it with you guys, and that was a lot of fun. I found with this one, can be a little bit like if there was a mistake that's done,
can wreck the game completely.
Yeah, because we're like, it's like, okay, well then it has to be here. I was like, what do you mean it has to be here? It's like, well, because you told me it wasn't there before. And then they're like,
it's like,
oh, yes, it has that same flaw. So you really got to be on point, because otherwise it can make a difference. But yeah, no, that was a great list that you had, and then I approve. Now let's have a look at what my list was back on episode 59. And here they are. Sherlock 13, by far, I still absolutely love this one for a deduction game. It's just a quick, easy, satisfying game to play. That one would still, I don't know, like I didn't include it in my list. I don't know how it would fit now, but that's still one that I absolutely love. I mean, all of them, right? Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. Actually, that one I had on my list, and when I was like, oh wait, that's on my list, so I deleted it. So I don't know where it would have landed, but that one is one that's just really fun with like a neat
bigger group. Yeah.
Right. Like to me, it is like, and I suck at this one because everybody seems so suspicious. It's like, who do you think did it? It's like they all did.
Yes.
I have trust issues. Narcos, the board game, I was surprised with this one with like, because, and I mean, the theme is very questionable. You know, you make cocaine and you try to export it to the States without being caught. So you have these little white cubes that are your coca bricks that you're creating, and you got to move them around to like hopefully a city that has an airport so you can try to, you know, filter them into the States. And you get like, and it's one versus all, right? So, but you have like the feds, you have like the, like all these other kind of organization that's trying to stop you. But that was super neat. I was so impressed with this game. Visitors Blackwood Grove. That's one that was cool because it's one of those where you got to figure out what the rule is. One player is playing as the alien, but they have a field, like a force field around their ship, and they crash landed, and people are throwing things in the shield to see what can make it through. And there's a rule. It could be like things that are round. So a soccer ball goes in. Oh, okay, perfect. So then you try a football. The football didn't go in. It's like, okay, well, it's not things that have associated with sports then. Like, and you're trying to figure out, and you're just tossing things in to see what's going to make it through. See if you can figure out the rule. That one was really neat as well. Secret Hitler's Fun. Shadows, Amsterdam. That one we had a blast with it. It kind of like Dixit, but movement, speed game, you know, like it was really cool. Awkward Guess, of course, love that one. Love that one. And Chronicles of Crime the same. So it was a great list back then. Now let's see how our list compares to that old one that was so great and hard to beat. So number 9, starting with you.
All right. So my number 9 is, I had just kind of labeled it as the Key series. Now this is the Key series from Haba Games. These are, they make a whole bunch of these. This one in particular I have had another one. It was a prison break one, and it's a little more complicated. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the level of difficulty you can get. I don't know if you can actually get easy, but this one's medium, and then there's a harder one. And so what's neat about this game is you take all the cards in the game and you just place them face down, and you just like randomly like put them in the middle, not stacked, just like shuffle them all up and spread them out a little bit. And then you choose a key color. I think there's about 8 to 10. And then whatever color it is, those are the clues you're going to grab from the pile. So some of the cards will have your color of clue and some will not. So you have to be careful and not grab the cards that do not have your color of clue, which happens, and then it really messes up your whole game. But I think that's part of the, you know, to make it a little more difficult. So you grab these clues, and they all have numbers on the top, and those are kind of like the value of the clue, kind of like in Awkward Guess, you know, the higher value, the better the clue will be, kind of thing. And what you're trying to figure out is you have 3 people, because you have this little player screen in front of you. You have 3 different weapons, you have 3 different locations, and 3 different modes of transportation, which are golf carts, because this is happening at a golf course. And you have to figure out which one used which weapon at which place with which vehicle. And so there is 3 crimes. So you're trying to kind of figure out all of them. And it sounds like it would be difficult, but what you do is when you pull up a card, one of the cards might give you information like the young boy was like at this location at a certain time. So you look at the time and you have this little map, because you all get this little pamphlet. And so you flip it over and you have this map of like the whole scene and, you know, surrounding areas, and it might show him at this one area at 8 o'clock, but he couldn't have gotten to these other 2 places because you also have to have the time to have committed the crime, so you can kind of already deduce those are not where he did it. So then that can kind of give you an answer like, oh, well, he definitely committed it at this location. So you can circle the location under that young boy. And then you just keep pulling cards. And sometimes you'll pull a card and it'll give you the same information you have, just in a different way. And so it's kind of a waste, because if you ended up tying for figuring out the crimes, then you add up your cards and whoever used the least amount of them will win. But it's really neat, because the pamphlet also has like these DNA codes, which are color strips. And so you might get a card and you pull it and say like this, the killer, or not the killer, but the person who did the crime here, this is their DNA strip. And so you have to compare it to the big long strip in the back, and each person has their own color code. So it's just kind of another way to deduce. You might actually pull up a watch, and the watch will show part of a watch that is kind of broken, but you can see the time of when the crime happened, and you can, so you can't see the time, but you can deduce maybe it's not these other two, so it's this one. So I know this person committed the crime at this time. So you can kind of weed out there. So you're just trying to figure that all out. Once you think you've got them, then you look at your player screen and there's a code, and it'll show like the number of the person, the number of the weapon, the number of the location, the number of the vehicle. And so you'll enter that code, or like you'll write that code down. Then you look at the bottom of the box. It has all these number codes, and you're going to take that key and you're going to stick it in the hole that you think it is. Then you kind of flip over the back of it, and if it's the right color, you've won. And so it might sound like, well, then you can only play this game 8 times, but you're never going to remember what one was. You know, like literally, if you played them all back to back in 8 one sitting, you would maybe have to take a break for a week, but you're not gonna, like, it's very replayable, because there's no way you're gonna remember what the code was for yellow, kind of thing, unless you have a photographic memory. But it's really neat, and it plays fast. It could be done in as easy as like as early as 10 minutes, and I think the most it would take is maybe 20-25 minutes. But it's neat because you're all just doing it at the same time. Like, you don't have to take turns. You're just all grabbing clues and trying to figure stuff out. And it's, you haven't tried this one yet, I don't think.
No.
Yeah.
I want to now.
Yes, you would really like it. But it's really cool. And so I just said this series because you can get all kinds of different scenarios and things. But this is the one I have and I really enjoy. The more difficult one I didn't enjoy as much, because some of the things, it seemed like there was in the harder one, you kind of have to find out the path they went, and there's some lying in there that you have to kind of deduce.
Oh, right.
And then they have some of these pictures where it's like 2 of the same picture, and you literally have to find the difference. And the difference is so slight that if you don't have like eagle eyes, you're not going to see it. And I do not have eagle eyes, so I gave this one to Chair. I'm like, this is living at your house, this game now, because I'm mad at it. So she loves it. But like, I'm like, hey, show me the difference on these things. And she's like, it's this little tiny itty bitty. I'm like, oh my gosh. It was frustrating, that one, but it's just, I mean, maybe use a magnifying glass, I would say, for those ones. But
yeah,
this version I really liked, the medium level. I will retry the hard one again at some point, but there's a bunch more too. I think you can get more mediums. You might even be able to get an easy, which would probably be good with kids, because they could understand all the deducing that would be needed to be done. But it's a really neat, cool game and a cool series, and that's the Key series from Abbey. Yes. And this one is what is it called? Something, the crime at Oakland.
Murder at the Oakdale Club.
Murder at the Oakland Club. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How many in this series, do you know?
I think there's at least 4. I'll look it up while you're talking.
Yeah.
I think there's...
Super cool. I put a star on it because now it's like on my wish list.
Yeah, and you might find some of these in used like areas, because people might think, oh, it's one and done kind of thing, but I don't think it is.
Cool. Yeah, no, I love that about it. So that's great. And then, having a bad memory kind of comes in handy for this.
Yeah,
stuff.
Exactly. Sometimes
All right,
good.
sounds great. All righty. My number 9 is a game that I played a few months ago. It's one that I had bought secondhand and I had never heard anything about it. Just kind of bought it blind and I thought it was really interesting. And this game is called Evidence. And in this one here is we are publishing information on some of these mythical creatures. So we have the Loch Ness Monster, we have the leprechaun. I can't make out what the yellow guy is anymore. I think we have a unicorn, we have the Yeti, and then we have like a vampire. And we're going to be publishing our findings on these mythical creatures, but the goal is to get the most credibility, and you're going to, or credibility points basically, and you're going to get that for how truthful what you're publishing is. But the thing is, you don't know like which mythical creatures actually exist per se. And each creatures have like a different amount of cards associated with it, and then they're distributed among all the players. And now in a low player count, there's like a dummy hand as well, so you can see what color cards people have. So it could be like, okay, well, I can tell that Lee has a lot of information on the vampire. So
on the back of the cards, you can see it?
Yeah, because you can see that it's the black card, and the black card is the vampire. So it'd be like, okay, well, he's got 3 cards of the vampire, so he's got a fair bit of information. And on the vampire, you can tell on the cards that's on the table that you have 3 zeros, 1 2, 1 3, and 1 4. So that means your articles for the vampire is either going to be worth 0, 2, 3, or 4. So if it's worth 4, that's going to be great, because each article you publish about it is going to be worth 4 points. So then you'd be like, okay, well, I think I'm going to publish this one. And you can kind of pick up where you get a +1 on what you publish if you're like the first one to get that particular card. So you can kind of, boost your publishing a little bit as well. So that's great if you have like a high number to begin with as well. But all you do is like, okay, well, in my hand, I can see I have a 0 and I can see I have a 3. So because I have the 3, then I know this story is not going to have a value of 3. And there's 2 more zeros out there. There's a 2 and there's a 4. Now, if it's the 4, that's going to be really good. But I don't know what the other players have. And then on your turn, you will play one of your card. So, but that makes it like you're revealing information. So, if you'd be like, okay, well, I've got almost all of the pink cards, and I know for a fact that the 2 lowest cards are in my hand, so that's not happening. So, but I have one that's fairly high, so I might play the high card so that other people think, oh, pink is not going to be really good because one of the high cards out, so maybe I'm not going to publish about that one. But I know it's not a low value, so I can, push that information and then start publishing on it a little bit. But then you also want to pay attention to what people are publishing about. It's like, okay, well, Lee has all these vampire cards and he's publishing a lot of vampire. Maybe I should be publishing vampires, right? Like, so there's that aspect going with it. It's a very simple, fairly quick game, but it's kind of neat. Trying to figure out what each ones are going to have a value of for the articles that you're publishing. The theme is super, super neat. Like, I thought it was so interesting. The artwork is whimsical and it's fun. And I quite enjoy this one. It's such like a small little card game that I had like never heard of. But I was quite pleased with it. So that's my number 9, Evidence.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I've never heard of this game. That looks neat. I love the cover too.
Oh, and the yellow was a mummy.
Oh,
that was the other mythical creature.
Right. And so I looked up in the key, there's 5 games right now in that series. And there are 2 medium ones. Is that one medium? 1 easy. 2 easy. And 1 hard one right now. So
okay, cool.
you can get different versions of it. But
Neat.
All right. Well, my number 8 is Spectral. Now, this is a Ryan Courtney game. This guy is usually developing Euro games. So he's done Pipeline. He's done, I'm trying to think of the name. You have the 2-player version of, oh, what was that called? Do you remember that one with the pipes?
The cargo one?
Cargo, yeah. It's called something Cargo, though.
Something cargo, yeah.
But so he typically does Euro games. Well, this one's a pure deduction game. So you are basically trying to find treasures in like a haunted manor, but the manor is basically a 4x4 grid. And so you have 4 cards face down. You'll start with a few face up depending on your difficulty. And then you also will each have this really cool little notebook. And so the notebook is basically the paper that you're going to deduce on. There's quite a few pages in there. I'm sure there's like a refill kit, or you could literally photocopy them or do whatever. But it's neat because you have 4 rows and you have an A, B, C, D row, but you don't know which one is in which. So like A could be on the bottom, D could be on the top. You just know that once you figure out where A is, then you know, like obviously the other 3 or something else. Now, what you're trying to do is you all have these little they're not really, well, they're just little stones, I'm going to say. They look kind of like tombstones almost. But they will come in like 1s, 2s, I think 4s and 6s possibly. And so what you do is on your turn, you're going to place one of them out. You can choose any number. If nobody's there, you would probably choose a lower number. And you're going to put it in between 2 of the cards. Then you can choose one of the cards to look at. So you're going to look at it, and it's going to show you on there. It might say there's a gem in a certain room, or there's a skull in a certain room. And you want to stay away from the skulls, and you want to be surrounding the gems. Because if you are surrounding the gems, however many people are around it, you're going to get a certain fraction of all the gems, right? But what's neat on the cards is there's 4 different symbols that could be on the cards. One could mean that wherever this card is, the mirrored vision of it, meaning on the grid. So if you're in, like, say the bottom right, the mirror image of it, because it goes top to bottom, mirror image would be the top right. So it might say like, it has a skull there. So then now you know there is a skull in that top right. So I'm not going to put any of my workers around there because then I'm going to lose points. So you write that in your little notebook and you know, okay, I'm going to stay away from there. And then it also shows you on there that particular card because each of the 4 cards have the same thing in each row. So there's like, if I'm explaining this right, you have 4 cards in each row of the same kind. So once I've deduced, okay, this card is here, I'll write that down. So on my grid, I'm showing, okay, this is like the skull card that mirror images. So now I know when the next one comes up, I'm kind of to deduce which, if it's A, B, C, or D. And after a while, you'll start to see like like it'll show on the card the letter, so you know, okay, this is A, I know that. So now I know these 2 cards in A are here. If I see another and I know they're imaged over there, or one could say like it's in a counterclockwise circle in your small circle. So there's either a big circle, meaning around the whole board, or the small circle in one of the quadrants. And so you always know when you flip the card, because you look in your notebook, what it means. So this one is telling me, oh, there's a gem over here. So now I want to get people around there, or your little stones around there, so that I can get a chunk of that gem. And there can be multiple gems in the room. So you're really just trying to deduce where the gems are and where the skulls are. And if I have 2 of my stones or workers, whatever you want to call them, and you've figured out there's some good stuff there, you can come and kick me out with double the amount. So that if I had 2 there, you could kick me out and put 4. So then I'm like, okay, well, I've got my 2 back, but I can still make it at the top here because then I'm still surrounding it. But I got to make sure what's above it, that I'm not placing this where there's actual skulls. So it's quite a quicker deduction one because there's really only a grid of, it's a 4x4. So once you've figured out like 3 of the 4 cards in each row, you know what the other one is. But it's not just deduction, because then you have to make sure you've put in your stoneworkers around like where they actually need to be to get the points. So, and there's like a upgraded version of this with like a player mat. I think that might have the player mat there. But you really, I mean, you just need the cards and the little workers, and then there's some like advanced variants in this one, but we've only kind of played the base one so far. But it's really neat. There's a solo version you can play in this, and it's just another cool deduction game that, you know, where these guys get the thoughts of these and how to develop them is just amazing to me. But this is a really cool one, and that's Spectral, my number 8.
Neat. This one does look cool, and the table
Yeah.
presence looks really neat.
Yeah.
Very fun. All right, my number 8. I went a little traditional here, because when you think deduction game, if you think traditional game, the first game that comes to mind, anyways, for me is Clue. Seems to be like the most well-known deduction game. And the big drawback I have with Clue, it's like, okay, well, I really want to know about the library, about this weapon. Well, then you have to make it all the way across the board, and then your rolls, I rolled a 2. It's like, man, it can take such a long time just to get set up to be able to go and test the theory that you have. So one fix that I found for that was actually Clue, the card game version. And I thought that this one did it so well. So it's still the same theme. It's still the same base game, basically, is you have all the same characters. You want to know who did it. You want to know where they've done it, and you want to know how they traveled there. So which vehicle that they used. But instead of having to make it there, you would just kind of be able to ask and have like the location tile in front of you, and then you can swap those out. So it's not like, okay, well, I'm 5 spaces away, and now I'm 2 spaces away. So it kind of takes that frustration out of the game. And I actually really, really enjoyed this card version of it. And then you can be like, okay, well, I'm asking about this. And then if anybody can discredit what you're kind of asking about, then you would kind of slide cards over and you would look at it and then be like, okay, take note of that. And so it plays similar to Clue in that sense, but it's like Clue improved as far as I'm concerned. You
don't have to do the movement, which is nice.
Yeah, it kind of takes away from the movement that was frustrating because things weren't located near you, right? So it takes that away. Now you may still have to kind of swap locations anyways before you can ask your question. So there's some of that still kind of, you can't just ask everything every time you want either. But it was an improvement on that original game, and I quite enjoyed it. I bought this copy secondhand a long time ago, and you could tell it's like an older game. Like I can't remember when it was. Well, I see one here. Clue, the card game, was 2002 on here, but it just kind of has the pure essence of Clue without that movement frustration that I would kind of have with the game.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So this card game did to Clue what Monopoly Deal did to Monopoly.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think I even have this game somewhere. I'm going to have to pull it out again.
Nice.
All right. Well, my number 7 is Gardeners. And this one is a game that is a real-time game, but it's actually made from the designers of Magic Maze. Now, it's not as hectic as Magic Maze. That one, you really get worked up. But this one is a tile-laying cooperative deduction game. Now, it sounds like, what? How is that even a thing?
Yes, a little bit.
There's a king who wants his garden a certain way, but he's only going to tell certain people certain things, but everybody else has to figure it out. It's kind of a weird game.
Okay.
So what happens is you each will pull up a card, and it's kind of like a rule of what needs to be done in this garden. And depending on difficulty you play, you might be building a 4x4 or a 5x5 or a 6x6. I don't know. I think that's the biggest it goes. It might go to an 8x8. But all you do is you just pull tiles, and they're face down, and you'll each pull one, and you'll start putting it together on the grid. Now, if one of your rules has been broken, you can say the king is angry, and then you can slowly start dismantling the tiles. But what you do with the tiles is if you pull them off, and you can't pull from the middle, you have to pull from the outside. I might pull one and I'll give it to somebody else. I can't keep it. So then it would go to someone, and you don't really have turns in this game. You can just, everyone can do, you can choose who's going, or if someone's like, I really want to go right now, or I'm just going to start placing tiles. But as soon as you have, and the way I'm talking about deduction is on the backs of the cards, it kind of shows like a general rule. Like it could be certain flowers need to be together, but you just don't know which ones. So that's where the deduction comes in. So if I have that on the back of my card and you guys start putting flowers together and I'm like, okay, the king is angry, and I pull one off, well, that might be like I pulled a green away from an orange. So you're like, okay, she doesn't have the one that wants the green and the orange together. So now we got to figure out. And so then I might place one next to another one, which would say, okay, so she wants, her rule is she wants the big green with the little pink or something. So we've kind of deduced that. And then we figure out the other people's rules. And you have to complete the grid, and you have to have the king happy before you can move on to the next round. Because then you will put one card, like kind of to the side, and you'll grab another one. Then you need to use those two rules and the new rule. So you might have to dismantle this whole grid before you get back to what you need for the old 2 and the new 1 rule. But the thing is, where it's real time is you have a 15-minute timer, and you basically play the game in 15 minutes and do as much as you can and score as many scoring cards as possible. I just had a really good time with this game. The 2 I played with, not so much, but there's a solo variant, which is completely different. It's more of a puzzle and not deduction, obviously. But with the multiplayer game in this one, it's deduction, and it's really neat. And I think you would like it, Mel, because it's, you still got to figure something out. And it's in real time, so there's some pressure, not as much pressure as Magic Maze, but it's still like, there's a race, so it's not like you just want to take all the time in the world. You want to be like, okay, let's just start placing them. Oh, that's not right. Okay, let's pull them off. Each of you start pulling them off, and then start putting them back in. That's not right. Pull them off again. So it's it's limited communication, but just a neat idea of, I love tile building, so sure, throw in a new mechanic of co-op deduction tiling and you've got me. And that was my number 7, gardeners.
Gardeners. That looks neat.
Yeah. It looks like just this cutesy little sweet game, but it's not.
Yeah. It's not. It's funny.
The king is
all right, my number friends with Madkin Ludwig.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so my number 7 is another older game in this style, but they actually recently republished it, and that is Mystery of the Abbey. Now, for a long time, this game was impossible to find, and if you wanted it, it had to be secondhand, and people weren't necessarily selling this one easily. So I picked a picture of the new box that got published. Now, I do have the old copy, so this is a picture from the old game. But this plays similar to Clue. So there's been a murder. One of the priests in this abbey has been murdered, and you're going to be going around from different location and asking questions and kind of running into other priests that are playing and asking them questions. And what's kind of interesting, though, it's not just like, okay, well, you kind of find out things like, because there's different ranks within the priest, or the priest, or what are they called, the monks. There's different ranks among the monks in this abbey, and then you have like, are they thin, or are they fat, or are they bald, or they have hair, or like, so you get like characteristic as well that's gonna be kind of help you decipher. And you have like this page with all of them in there and be like, okay, well, he's not thin, so you can cross all the thin guys, and then be like, okay, well, he's not this, okay, well, then he's definitely part of the Cardinals branch, like what you kind of deduce too. So it does keep it really interesting. Another thing is it plays a little bit like awkward guess where you can trade cards, and then that card is just gone and you get new cards and you get new information that you can kind of take note of as well. And then going from location to location kind of changed what you can do. It could be that you can steal a card from a neighbor, or you can pick a new card, or different things depending on where on the map you're locating and kind of taking your action. So there's that. But then what's kind of interesting as well is this is a point game. So whoever at the end of the game has the most points win. Now, figuring out who the murderer is will give you 4 points, but doing incorrect accusation is going to cost you points. So even though you've discovered who it was, you might not win if you've done too many false accusations. So you kind of have those different things. But every time you ask a question that was kind of correct, then you gain points for that as well. So it's kind of a neat spin on definitely Clue. Like this one definitely has like Clue influence for sure. But it's a neat spin on it. And the fact that it was just recently republished and the new fresh look, because I mean, this one is a little beige, as some of the older games were, but it was still really, really neat game. So that is my number 7, Mystery of the Abbey.
Yes, I would like to try this one of yours. And I haven't heard good things about the newer version. They said that it was not a great production for some reason.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, the box looks great.
Yeah, that's a
but
great
I didn't see
cover.
what the...
I don't know. It could be just from people who are whining. Like, usually something redone is better. So I can't see how it could be worse, but there's people complaining.
Well, some people don't like change in a game if it's a game they like. It's like, well, what did they change that for? So that happens.
They had to remake it and couldn't get the exact art. So anyway.
Exactly.
All right. My number 6 is actually a solo game, and this one is called Black Sonata. Now, I've actually played this with one other person just to have another brain to see if we could deduce it together. And I actually liked it that way. I do like it solo as well, but I was like, I just want to try this out and see if us both doing it, making decisions together, like what it's like. Because you could do that with like Final Girl kind of too, right? It's a solo game, but you could make the decisions together. So what this one is it's, you're in trying to find the Shakespearean lady of the night. And how you do that is, it's really neat how you set this game up, because you have this deck of cards, and depending on the game you choose, you're going to follow that order of alphabet, and that's how you're going to order all these cards. So then you order these cards, and then you're going to cut them somewhere and put one on, one chunk on the top, and you're going to start the game. And what you're doing is you are moving around to these different locations and trying to find the Black Sonata, which is the lady of the night kind of thing, and or the Shakespearean lady. And so if I go to a spot and I think she's there, because you do a turn and she does a turn. So once I've deduced, well, she has to be at these 3 spots the next turn. Okay, now it's down to these 2. Oh, now it's back to 3 spots, because it'll always show a symbol that she could have moved to. So there's multiple symbols on the board. There might be like 3 crosses. Oh, she moved to that spot, but she was here before, so she couldn't make it over to that one. So that only leaves 2 spots. Then say the next time there's 1 and I'm at her spot, luckily. Well, then it's kind of like a guess. I can guess if she's there. And so what you do is you take the location and you put the card where she moved, and you put it on top and you flip it, and it has this little hole in the card, and it'll either show her shadow or it'll show not. And so if you see her shadow, she's there. So then you get to take some clues. And what the clues are other ladies that share qualities of her. They could share no qualities of her. But it kind of shows on the right-hand side. Okay, so this one has 2 of the same symbols as she does. And she's always going to have 3 symbols. And so you need to have a bunch of those clue cards to kind of figure out, okay, well, she doesn't have this, and she has similar to that, but she has nothing similar to that one. So that's where the deduction comes into, as well as the moving around the board. But it's really neat how you need to go to collect these locations first in order to be able to catch her. And then once you know which one she is, you have to go to a location and catch her again, and then you will guess, and you'll flip the card that you've hidden, because just like in Clue where you hide the actual, murder or whatever, you hide the actual lady, and then you'll flip it and see if you've deduced the right one. It's such a clever made game. It took me a while to figure out how they actually, put this deck together to make work for multiple games, because depending on the one you use, then you change up the deck and move it around. Now, the neat thing is there's these fog cards as well. So when you are wrong, you have to put these fog cards in front, and then she scatters. So she's going to move 2 moves away. And so you don't know where that is yet. So then you've got to deduce, okay, it's 2 different moves that she's had since she's been to this place. So she could have been, so now you might have like 5 different locations she could possibly be. So once you guess her, then she scatters, and then it kind of gets more difficult. And then you zero in, you get a clue. Okay, I still need more clues. She scatters. So it's just kind of, like you do a lot of good, and then all of a sudden it gets back to being bad, and then you do good. Kind of like the pandemic formula, where you get stuff figured out, but then some bad stuff happens. But it's just a really neat little game that I like solo, but I do also enjoy it multiplayer. And that's Black Sonata. There's tons of little expansions to this that I haven't even looked into yet, because just the base game alone is just, so difficult that it'll be a while before I tap into any of those expansions. But really cool game, and that's my number 6.
Really cool. Yeah. Perfect. So my number 6 is one that I actually played with you the first time, and this is a bit of a stretch of, is this really a deduction game? But Board Game Geek says it is, so that's good enough for me. And this is cross clues.
Oh yeah.
So with cross clues, you have different you have different numbers and letters that goes on the side. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on the number of players, and A, B, C, D, E. And then you get tiles that'll have a combination of that, the letter and the number. But then attached to each of those, there'll be a word. And so if looking at my example, those words are not in English, so I can't use those as examples.
Remember
but
the
if
one
you have
from our game? The pink unicorn or something.
Yes, there was different things on there.
Yeah.
But it's like, and you kind of try to figure out, like, because you can see, okay, well, if my clue was like A1, and like the things you have in there, and you got to come up with a clue that would make them give out that location. Now, as you get the clue, you'd be like, okay, when you're kind of looking, it's like, well, she could mean this, or she could mean that. Now, we had one that was like mushrooms and unicorn was out there, and that was the clue that I had. But there was also knees and feet or something, and my clue was tripping.
Yeah.
So, and you gotta. You did, but then it talked you out of it. It's like, no, it has to be feet. You're tripping on your feet. So, but like, you gotta kind of, okay, what would she mean? But then you also have your own tiles kind of looking into it. It's like, okay, well, I mean, like that could fit, but that's not it. That's in my hand, So it's like, okay, it was such a neat, interesting game. Now we played it late at night, like it was the last game of the day after a full day of gaming, and I think it made it even better. Because it's like I think you get a little more creative or loose on your rules. It's kind of, what are you talking about? That doesn't match anything, but it is such a very neat, interesting game, and you're trying to get the most successful clues and put these tiles out onto this grid. But it's so much fun. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, just trying to kind of figure out and deduce how people are thinking and what they're trying to mean and where this would fit in. And Yeah, well, that was a good one, and that is cross clues.
Yeah, I feel like this is pure deduction because you're literally, that's the only way you're going to get the answer is by deducing,
True.
okay, it's not here, and she said those two words, so that could mean this or could mean that. So that's really all you're doing is deducing. I think I didn't even think of this game.
Right, yeah.
This game would have totally made my list because I love it. I love this game. It's even good at 2. Because you're just trying to, it's cooperative, so you're just trying to get the perfect grid, but it doesn't usually work out to get perfect because some of those things it's interesting how they put all the words on each side too, and some of them can just be silly and funny. But yeah, good pick. All right, well, my number 5 is Kronologic Paris, I think it was called. There's 3 different versions of this game. Only one is out right now. Yeah, Paris, 1920. Now, the other 2, I think, are coming out this year or next year. And the reason they have more coming out, I believe, is because it's there's a limited amount of cases in there. But again, I think there's 4 boxes of cases, and I think there's 4 or 5 in each box. Now, doing like the whole first case, I did it probably a couple months ago. I could literally go back and you don't remember it because it's not like it's a number and people and it's in which room. So if you can remember that from 2 months ago, then maybe
some people, I'm sure, some people out there can. We can't. So we get more money out of our game.
Yeah. So now how this one works, it's quite a simple layout. You open up this box, and I've started on 1, and you have this little pamphlet, and the pamphlet will tell you how to set up on each of your sheets. So you all have these player sheets, and it'll tell you like where each character starts in the room. In later on, like more difficult cases, you might not know where some of them actually are. It might just give you a few of them where you're starting. But then you have these rows of cards, and you'll have all the locations. You'll have the time frames, meaning it'll be like time 1, time 2, time 3, time 4, time 5. And then you have the characters. And so what you can do on your turn is you can either choose a time. So you can take a time and a location together, and you'll put those 2 cards together and flip it over. Now it's going to give you some information on the back because it's like these cards have holes in them, kind of like Black Sonata. And so it'll show you what's peeking through those holes. It might say, like if I took, say, time 1 and I took the entry area, it might say there's 4 people here or something, or it might say like literally a person that's there, like the detective is here. It'll give you different information, but sometimes it'll give you information that is like public information. So I get some private, and then there's public. So I get my information, and then everybody gets to see the public information. If I were to have chosen a person and a time, a person and a location, it could show me they've been in this location twice. And so you might, I know they've been there in time 1, and then you can start to track their movement of where they are because the questions you ask can tell you what or how many people are there, kind of thing. And so what you're trying to do in this whole first case is trying to find who killed the detective. Now, if you can ever find the detective in the room with only one other person, that's where and who he was killed by. So that's the easy version of it. I haven't even got to, I think I maybe done the second case and maybe part of the third, but I think there's 4 or 5 and they get quite a bit more complicated. But it's just neat because you're not like asking anyone questions. You're basically asking the game questions by just flipping over the cards and figuring it out. And then if you have it figured out, it doesn't have an app, so you have to look at the card. If you're wrong, you're out of the game, kind of thing. I'm sure they'll eventually develop an app where you can check, and if you're wrong, you're still in the game. But it's a really quick one because it can play in like 10 minutes easy. If not, I'm sure 20. I've only actually played it with 2 people, so maybe with more people to take a little bit more time. But it's just neat how you're trying to track these people in the different times that they could be and the different locations. And the neat thing too is they have to have moved from the location on the next time. So if they're in the one room, they could only be in one of these other rooms the next time. So you got to keep that in mind as you're figuring out where anybody is, and if there's only two people in that room, and if one of them's a detective, you found it. It's just like another neat, clever deduction game that I'm not sure what the next two will be like, if they're going to have the exact same mechanic and just kind of different flavor of it, or if it's going to be something completely different. But it's a really cool game, and yeah, that's my number 5, Kronologic, Paris 1920.
Looks super cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's neat. All right. My number 5 is a game that we played once, and I can't remember if it was with you. I want to say it was at Melcon when I had it here or around that time. And this is a game that I had purchased. And at the time, it's like, I don't know, like everybody was talking about this game, and it was a really interesting game. I really need to play this again. And this is Mind Management.
No, it wasn't
now this
me,
game
because
is
I want to play this game.
okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, trying to remember who was there, but I mean, I could look it up. But it was a really interesting game, and it's one of those games that you play once versus everybody. Now you can use an app to play this game as well, and especially if you're playing 2 players, you can do everybody against the
Oh, cool.
app. Like the app will kind of control that. But the way that it works is you have this board, and you have the one person that has like a shield that hides what they've got going on, and they get like a kind of a plan of what they need to do. So they need to go around and try to visit those 3 type of location or something. And in order for the mind management to win, is they got to collect 12 recruits or survive for a total of 16 turns. And we're going to be moving from location to location and kind of quizzing the different location that we're at, the people that are there. And we're trying to find where the mind management has gone. And if we ever capture them, get on the same place as where they're at, then we would capture them, right? But certain things get revealed. It's like, okay, well, so they visited this, and then they visited that location. So that was kind of, few move later. So what path could they possibly? So you're trying to figure out the path so you can kind of figure out where they're going and trying to catch them. And I'm doing a terrible job explaining it. But it was such an interesting, like, kind of feels like, which is the hidden movement game that's out there as well.
Oh,
it's gonna bug me now. Scotland Yard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has an element of Scotland Yard to it, but it's amplified quite a bit in there. There's a lot more going on in this game, and it was just so interesting. So all the other players were kind of, and you would say, okay, hold on. So he said this then, but that was 3 turns ago. So if he had gone this way, like that could have been where he's like, oh, right. But what about if he went that way? Oh, that might work as no, but so like you're gonna have these conversations. You're gonna try to figure it out. Like you really gotta try to pay attention, take your note, and it's kind of like, okay, hold on, let's have a look at it. And you're looking at this map, trying to figure out what they did. It's like, but it was such an interesting game. And like I said, I've only played it that one time, and it was definitely a learning game. So now playing it again, like it would go a lot smoother, but it was so neat. So we definitely need to arrange to play this. Yes. But it was so cool. Definitely deduction, because you do kind of like figure out, you're getting partial information, and you try to figure out how that information fits in this map. What could he have done? And how does that fit? But really, really neat game. And so that's why I was getting so much buzz. But yeah, so that is my number. I don't even know what number we're on right now. So my number 5, Mind Management.
Awesome. Yes, I definitely want to try this one soon.
Yes.
All right. My number 4 is Break the Code /Cube. Now, these are 2 similar games, but just one's numbers and one is like, not Tetris shapes, but basically
cubes.
No, I guess they would be Tetris shapes. So the first one I had was the number one, and they are basically just deducing a code. And so it's a number code, and it can be anywhere from 1 to 9. Now, the 5s are always going to be green, but the other numbers are either going to be white or black. So you have to deduce the code plus which color each of the numbers are. And how you do that is you have these cards. And so it depends if you're playing with 2 people, then you're just trying to find the middle code. If you're playing with multiple people, you're trying to find other people's codes. So that I haven't tried yet. I've only tried trying to find the middle code. And so by doing that, you will ask the other player questions, and the questions are all on cards, and some of them might be like, what do your right 3 numbers add up to? What do your black numbers add up to? And so you're trying to figure out where they are, because there's like an A, B, C, D, E, where each of those numbers will be. There might be a question, is there any 4s or lower in your C section? So in the middle, if they're like, no, there's nothing lower than 4. Well, you already know all those 3 numbers are not 4. So you can, figure that out. So sometimes it takes like 5 cards and you've got it figured out, and then sometimes it takes 10 cards and somebody else has already figured it out. But it's a really cool game because you don't get to choose your questions. It's only the questions that are in front of you. And so there's 5, I believe. And then when you choose one, you'll ask it, and then it goes in the discard and another one will flip. So you only have what is out there for selection. So that's another thing. It's not like you can just ask anything. But with the cube one, so you get all these different shapes and you're going to arrange them on your little grid. And then you have a player shield, and you're trying to guess the other people's shape and where everything is. And if you play multiplayer, I think you will try to guess your left member or whatever. But how you do that one is you're going to ask questions like, what do you see in 4B? And so you have the grid, and it's looking right down, I might see yellow. Now that might mean I have yellow stacked up on top of something, or I just have a yellow there. They might say, I don't have anything there. So you're like, okay, cool. I can cross that out. There's nothing there. But it's neat how you have to figure out how they've, made their little shape, because it's like, I think you have 4 or 5 different shaped cubes that you arrange them. And it's just so clever how you can actually figure it out just by asking, like, okay, what's in this one? And then you can also like say, well, I'm looking straight on at row E. So if I'm looking from the bottom, what am I seeing? So you can see the outside now of what color is there. So then you can slowly start to figure out, okay, well, that shape is flipped this way and this one's, a different way. But they're just really clever and fast games too. You can play these ones in 10 to 15 minutes. And I just love games like that, especially at the end of the night or something, or beginning of the night, when you just want to finish off with something, or start out with a deduction game to like clear all your brain matter of the day and then go fresh into another game. But these 2 are awesome. The one, Break the Code, you can actually play on BGA for free, but the other one, you can't play there yet. But they're very affordable games too, and really neat. And those are my number 4.
I love it. I've never played either one of these. Number 4, Break the Code specifically kind of gives me like a Turing machine vibe to it a little bit.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
And I really want these now.
Yeah.
So I've put a star next to those ones as well. Well, and I like yellow games. I like,
yeah.
There's going to be good component games, and these ones look really cool. So on my wish list it goes. All right. My number 4, BG Geeks does not list this one as a deduction game, but it really is. And that is The Gang. So The Gang is a cooperative poker game. And I've played your copy a few times, I believe. My friend actually bought it. She's like, oh, I've never played it yet, but I've got this game called The Gang. It looks cool. I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. If you come across it again, like, buy me a copy. But what's really cool with this one is you're trying to bid basically with poker chips on who has the best hand and who has the worst hand. And you're trying to figure out the order of this poker hand. Now you start with only 2 cards. It's kind of Texas Hold'em style in that way. Be like, okay, well, I have 2 cards. I have like an 8 and a 10. Like, I don't know. Like, that's, I mean, 10 high, maybe, like, whatever. So it'd be like, okay, well, I don't think I'm very good. So I think I'm going to be in third position. I bid for that. And then it could be like, somebody be like, no, my hand is really bad. And he says his hand is really bad. Yours must not be so bad. But I was like, it's not great, but you can't discuss what's in your hand. Then cards get flipped. And then all of a sudden, somebody's like, went from like, no, my hand is horrible. It's so bad. It's really, really bad. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, my hand is really good. And they're taking the really high poker. It's like, okay, hold on. Like, something's changed then. So it was really bad, but now that we flipped this, it's really good. And what we flipped was an 8. So maybe they had an 8. They have a pair of 8. But then so do I. So like, maybe my hand is equally good. Like, I do have a 10 high on top of that. So, but this is all, you just kind of try to figure out what they have based on how excited they get about their hand. So, and then another card gets flipped and be like, and then you bid again, and you will bid like 4 times. And you really got to pay attention to like, okay, well, like, you were like, oh, my hand is crap. It's so bad. And then now, like, you're all the way in. It's like, but we do have like 6 on here. We have 8 and 9. So maybe they have like a straight, like, so you gotta, oh, maybe that's why. And then you reveal your hand. It's like, you excited about a pair of 8, like, or whatever. It's like,
yeah.
But it's so interesting. But you really try to figure out what they're thinking. And you do this a few rounds because you're trying to unlock a safe. So every time you're successful, you get like an unlock card. If you're failed, then you get like a locked card, and you got to get 3 unlocked to win. But it is just such an interesting game. But yeah, even though it doesn't say deduction, and there's a lot of deducing that you got to do as you play, trying to figure out where you fit in this row of like poker hands. But super cool. And it's kind of cool. Like, this is the first time you kind of have cooperative poker. Like, it just doesn't seem to fit, but it works so well.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one here is my number 4, The Gang.
Yeah, I agree. This is deduction. I had this on my list, and then I checked Board Game Geek for, if it was deduction. It didn't say, so I pulled it off, but I feel like it is totally deduction. And this was high up on my list too, so it would have been probably right around where you had it. But the one thing about this game I find, if you're playing with non-poker players or people who don't really know poker, a good idea is to look up the rarity of hands. So when they give you the list of, like flush, royal flush and all that, if you can kind of give them like how rare each of those are, because some people they'll have, they might have almost a straight, or like they have 3 and they think, oh, that's easy. I'll get 2 more easy. And they might think they have a really good hand. Whereas if you have a 1, 2, 3 and there's only 1 card more or 2 more cards to flip, it's unlikely you're going to get a straight, right? But people who have never played that might not know that that's not going to maybe happen. So I think it was Game Boy Geek had suggested that. It might have been someone else, but saying like if they had kind of just put the rarity for people who have never played poker, it would help a lot with the cooperativeness of it. But with people who have played it and kind of know, it's such a cool game. I just love it too.
Yeah, it would be helpful because, like, in the world of poker on TV, they have like a percentage probability. Yeah, so exactly. If you had like the percentage probability pop up as you're playing the game, like, this influence thing. Because I know what played is like, really? Do you really think? I was like, no, but I mean, like, there's potential, so I'm considering that. But now that card flipped, my potential's gone.
Yeah, now I'm out of it.
Yeah.
All right, good one. Okay, my number 3 is Archeologic. Now this one is a polyomino deduction game. And how this one works is you all have this little grid in front of you, and you all have the same polyomino shapes with different symbols on them. And then you have this contraption, and you're basically asking this contraption questions. There is an app you can use. I don't think you can use it to ask the questions. I think it's just to guess the ending. But I haven't tried. It might even be that you could ask the app the questions, but I really like using the contraption. So You are trying to figure out where each shape is on your grid and where the empty spaces are. I believe there's 2 empty spaces. And so how you do that is you're going to ask this contraption, like you're going to say, I want to know about the squares, and I want to know in row E where, if there's any of the square there. So you'll kind of flip your little contraption to the squares and then E, and then you'll open this thing and it could say like 2. So 2 of the squares are in E. So, okay, I've deduced that. So I know 2 of them are there. Now, that doesn't tell me exactly where it is, but I know 2 of them are there. Then, like I said, there's symbols on each of the shapes. Some of them are called traps, and then what are the other ones called? They're called different things, but you can actually ask, like, okay, how many of these are going to be on this row? So I know there's going to be 2 pink ones there. So I can there's those little squares you can place down, knowing they're in that row. I don't know where in that row, but I can put them underneath that row knowing they're there. Now, 2 of my shapes have those on them. So they have to be in that row. And once you figure out where that actual one is, then you're like, okay, now I know this shape has to be in this configuration. So I've got that one. Now I just need to figure out the rest of them. And you just keep going around asking questions. And the turns kind of work like, what's that game? Nova Luna? Yeah, Nova Luna, where whoever's, because you use time for what kind of questions you're asking. You might ask a big question and you might have to move 3 or 4 spaces. And then the person behind always gets to go. So if you ask a big question, the other person can ask a bunch of little ones before it's your turn again, kind of thing. And it's really neat. It's like a clever, different type of deduction by trying to find out where things are instead of, who did what. But it's just really cool. And yeah, that's my number 3, Archeologic.
That one looks so cool. It's on my wish list as well. Now, I have run out of room all the way. Like, I just don't have any more shelves. Now I have piles I got to figure out. Although my coworker, because I work from here so they can see behind me. And on this side, there's a closet. She's like, oh, I bet that closet's full of games too. And I was like, actually, no.
Not yet.
Oh, I'm going to take over the closet. I'm going to get rid of whatever's in there.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. There's a solution on the way. But yeah, so this one looks really cool. And I love the gadgety looking thing. So yeah.
Well, you know what you should do with your closet is you should put games in there that you think you might get rid of, and then just leave them there. And if they're still there, like in a couple months, then you get rid of them. I
was looking around my game shop, and you'll be proud, but I think I've like triaged another 3.
Ooh, good job.
Right? That's so bad. All righty. My number 3 is obviously another deduction game, but it's another like party game deduction game, and this one is Phantom Inc. So Phantom Inc, you play 2 teams, and then you have a word, and you're trying to guess what this word is. Now, we played this on a 4-day retreat, and the word we picked, and we purposely went hard, but it was thermos. So we're like, okay, so this is our secret word. We have the 2 clue givers, and then you have the other team members. And then now the people on your team are going to have all these cards that have different questions. And they'll hand you 2, and you'll look at them, and you're going to pick one to answer and be like, what is it used for? Or, what color is it? Or something, whatever. Let's see, those are the 2 questions. Well, thermos can come in every color. So I'm not answering that one. What is it used for? I'm doing that one. Good. And you start giving the answer 1 letter at a time. Now, everybody, the other team as well, can see the answer as you're spelling it out. So I'm going to start, and I put an S. And then you kind of let them think about it, and they'll be like, okay, well, give us another letter. It says, okay, no problem. I'll give you an O. Like, okay. Give us another letter. So I put a U. And they're like, okay. Now, if they think they figured it out, they can say, okay, we're good. Stop. They still had no idea. So they're like, 1 more letter. And I was like, Kate, P. And they're like, soup? Does she mean soup? And it's like, maybe one more letter. I was like, no, there's no more letters. It was soup, right? So they're like, okay, but now the other team can see that the answer you got as a clue for your word is soup. But the other team doesn't know what the question asked. So they don't know how this clue relates to the secret word. But they're like, okay, well, we see soup. Yeah. All right. The next question they have was like, what is it made of? So, and then I started answering like M, E, T, A, and then like, okay, stop. And then they're kind of like chatting with each other. So probably saying metal. Yeah. Like, okay, we're gonna stop there. Now the other team sees meta, but they don't know that it's what it's made of. They don't know that information. So you kind of have to like, well, did it mean this? Maybe this is what it means. And if this means this, and they have their own clues as well. And it's like, and one of the things that they have was like popular brand. And then the other clue giver was giving Yeti, so, Yeti. So,
but it was, I would have thought of too.
Honestly, like, I thought for sure when we picked Thermos, was like, they're never gonna guess this, like, ever. But then anytime that they think they're right, then they can go and then they'll start putting it in. So they're like, okay, I think we got it. I was like, okay. So then they put the letter one at a time. So they put P. I'm like, no. Oh, well, it's not what we thought. So then they stop there. But I think they were thinking pot because of my soup. And I was like, soup maybe soup was a bad clue. But I think they got coffee on the other side, right? Like, so it's like we're getting, I'm not a coffee drinker, so my mind didn't go to coffee. But like, you're going through this. Now, sometimes you'll get a thing that has an I on that round. So when you get an I, you can request to have an extra letter provided in any of the clues that was previously given, either on your side or the other side. So it's okay, well, they got this clue. We're not sure what they're saying. So we'd like to see more of that. So can you give us another letter? And then be like, okay, so, and then I think they turn meta into metal. So, oh, okay. So it's something to do with metal. And they're like, okay. So the other side, they were like, I think they were like, at one point they guessed pool. Like, no. But so they were way off. But they did get Thermos in the end, right? Like, but it's such a very neat, interesting game. Now you can kind of get like, because there's one clue question card that says, give me a word that's not related to this at all. Now you're aware that I'm kind of putting a thing that says umbrella, right? But the other team has no idea that what the question is, and they're like, how does umbrella and soup work together? Like, what the heck? So, but it's such a neat game. Absolutely love it. But this is also, I think, a game that either you click and you like that style or you don't. So when we played, there was one guy that, because afterwards, like, everybody's like, let's do it again, and then the one guy was like, nope. So he just walked away.
I love this game.
I'm a big fan. Now, every time I play, I can't help but do it in ghost voice, because technically your ghost giving is like, yes. It gets so fun. Like, mostly at Halloween, like, that's just neat game. That is my number 3. Phantom.
Nice. I forgot all about this one, but it would have definitely made my list because I love it. But my number 2 is Search for Planet X / Lost Species. Now, these two are even closer to the same game than the other two that I had said were together. I would prefer the Planet X, even though the theme of Lost Species I'd prefer. But this one, I'll tell you how it's a slightly different. So with this one, you are trying to find Planet X. And this is a competitive game. And you have this... you have player sheets, but the big game board is this, like, all these planets in circular sectors, basically. And you are trying to find out where certain comets are, where there's asteroids, obviously the Planet X. You're trying to find, I'm trying to think of what the other things are, comets. I can't remember. There's a couple other things in there. But they all have certain rules. So, like, let's say comets can't ever be next to asteroids, or asteroids want to be in clumps of 3, or certain rules like that. Those might not be the actual rules. But on your turn, you start like somewhere around this planet, and you will move. And as you move, you're going to choose an action. And whatever action you choose, it has a time cost on it. And so whatever I choose, if I have, say, like a 3 cost, I'm going to move 3. And then I guess the same like Nova Luna, whoever's behind gets to go. Whoever's in the back gets to go next. And so you're just asking questions. And this one is an app-driven game, so everyone can have the app on their phone. You could just use a tablet and pass it around. I find it easier just everyone to have it on their phone. And you will ask us certain questions like, in this sector, is there any comets? Or in this group of sectors, is there comets? And it could say, oh, yes, there's 2. It won't say where, because you've asked a more general question. But if you were to literally ask what's in this sector, you can do that, I think, 2 or 3 times a game, and then it'll tell you. And then as you move around the board, you're gonna the planets or the solar system is actually going to move and slide. And so when it crosses this one barrier, then you can all make a guess at one of the things, or maybe 2, depending how many things you have. And so you might take a guess, and you're going to put it at the top of one of the sectors. And then as the turns pass, it's going to slide down. Once it gets to the bottom, you're going to all check those ones. And so as we check, if I was correct, I'm going to mark that down on my sheet, and I'm going to get certain end game points for that. If I was wrong, I'm actually going to get punished, and I'm going to lose some time. Once you've figured out where planet X is, which is not any of the things on your board, but you have to figure out where those are in order to figure out where planet X is, then you can ask the app. You have to use, like, I think 4 or 5 times, and then it wants you to know what's in sectors beside planet X on both sides. So you have to know that, and then it'll tell you if you're right or wrong. If you're right, you've won. I think people might get 1 chance at it, but they would get less points than you. If you were the first one to get it, you might get, say, 10 points. And then if other people have guessed, they'll get a lower amount. And then after that, it ends the game, and you're going to add up your points. Now, you're going to get certain points for actually researching the correct formations. You're going to get points for finding planet X. What's the other thing you get points for? I'm trying to think. There's one other little thing, but it doesn't typically mean you'll win if you find planet X, because if you have not researched the other things correctly, other people may have gotten more points than you. But it's just like a really cool, clever deduction game. And the Lost Species is just slightly different, where you're kind of moving around a map, and it's not just in a rondel. You're moving all over a map, so it complicates things a little bit. But the Planet X one is a lot smoother. So they're both really good games. The other Lost Species is just a little bit more difficult. And they both have 2 different sides, so you can play an easier or a harder version, which is nice. So, once you've mastered it, you can start flipping it over and making it more difficult. There's solo variants to both of these using the app, and it works awesome. It's a really cool solo game, because you're just basically playing the game, and you're just trying to get your answer as quick as possible. But these I highly recommend. I like them both. And that's my number 2, the Search For series. There is another one out now too.
Oh, is there?
Called, yeah, the Search For, not UFOs. It's something similar to that, but I haven't played that one yet.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very neat. Yeah, I haven't played Planet X. I've played Lost Species. That one was definitely interesting as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, neat. All right. My number 2 is a game that I just recently got. I got it last week. I've played it. And then I was like, oh, well, they reached out to me, says, hey, do you like deduction games? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I love them. So I was like, hey, let us send you this. And right away, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to love this. Because another thing that I love is also 1 versus 1 battle games. And this one kind of includes both. And this is classified information. So in classified information, it's a 2-player game. And what will happen is you will get a card on your side that you're going to put, like, it's a bit multi-use cards, right? Because you're going to get 2 cards to start with, and you have one that you're going to put on its side, and that's your briefcase. And your briefcase has a secret code to get in, and you're not going to give that out to anybody, but the other player is trying to get to your briefcase and get your access to your secret code. And you're trying to get access to their briefcase and guess their secret code. Now you have like a little decoder card that you're going to be drawing on, and that has like all the different card combination, because every card combination has 2 of each. So you'll have the combination 1, 2, 3. There'll be 2 of those. There'll be combination 2, 3, 4. There'll be 2 of those. And then you'll have 4, 5, 6, and so on. Now you look at your combination, you're going to mark on that. Okay, well, that's not that card because it's in my hand, or at least one of them. So you would kind of put a line across the one side to show that, okay, well, this one here is in my hand. That's my briefcase. Then you have the other 2 cards, and you go across one of those out each, because you know that's in your hand, so it's not the ones they have. And now if you ever see both cards, so like if you see 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3 again, well, you know they absolutely do not have that combination. You can cross it off, because that is, you've seen them both. Now, when it's on your turn, you can do an action, and depending on what you want to do. Now, each card has the combination at the bottom, and they also have like the middle number in that combination is also the number of that card. But then it also has an ability that allows you to do something, and then there's also a faction associated with it. It could be an assassin, it could be a guard, or it could be a sentinel, and the sentinel can be used as both an assassin or as a guard. So let's say it's a guard, and I decide to play it for the faction. So as a guard, I'm going to put it face down in front of me, and you have room to put 3 guards in front of your suitcase to protect your suitcase. A little bit like Radlands, where you have like the people in front of your base to protect your base, right? So you put in the guards there. Now, so they'll be there to try to protect, and that'll come into play at the end of the game. Now, if I play an assassin, depending on what's happening, if I've had a card played that allowed me to flip upright the assassin on another player, then I know what the assassin is. So I have to play a card that would match the number in their code to get rid of that assassin. Now, if I don't know, I'm going to do an assassination attempt, and I'm going to play a card, and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to play this card against your assassin. I'm really hoping that the numbers in my code matches one of your numbers, because then I can get rid of your assassin or of your guard. So they'll be like, okay, so the assassin I'm playing is code 1, 2, 3. And if 1, 2, or 3 is not in their code, they're going to be like, no, they're not going to tell me what it is. But then I can take note on my little thing. Okay, well, their guard is not 1, 2, or 3. So I know that going forward. But my assassin is not completely useless. Even though he couldn't get rid of the guard, he still get access to some secret information. And then the other player has to show me one of their cards. So I'll look at the cards like, okay, well, it's not that one because that was in their hand, so it's not their suitcase. So I would take note of that. Now, I can also play the card for its ability. Now, if I play the card for its ability, I discard it face up. So that means the other player is going to see that combination, and they're going to mark as like, well, it's not that card. They just showed me that card. So you are revealing some information to the other player, but the ability that those card does are really good. Sometimes be like, okay, I'm doing that, but it allows me to look at the last 2 cards of the draw deck, so I can eliminate 2 cards. Like, okay, well, it's not that one, and it's not that one. So, like, it'll do different things every time. So, but most of the time, it's like it will give you some information. So it's kind of worth, but you are revealing information. Now, the other thing I can do with my card is I can classify the card, and I just discard it on the other side, face down, so they will never see it. So it's like, I'm not showing this to you at all, but I'm also not gaining any information.
Right.
Now, we're playing till the cards have all been drawn. So then there's nothing left in the draw deck. We have 2 cards in. We're going to do a final round. So we play one final card, and we're left with 1. Now, the goal is to figure out their codes. So, but in order to do that, I need to have a card in my hand that matches the code on their suitcase. So even if I don't really know, but I'm like, I don't know for sure which one it is, but I think it's 456 or 567. So I'm going to try to keep a 5 or a 6 because those duplicate. So as I'm going to try to keep a 5 or a 6 in my hand to try to guess that. Now, this card also needs to make it past the guard. So if I kept a 5 and the guard has a 5, then he blocks my attempt. Then I don't have an unchallenged guess, right? Now, if I'm all the way off and it was actually 7, 8, 9, and there's no 5 anywhere near, like, so then I don't guess the combination of the suitcase. Now, so if both of us at the end of the game didn't get a successful guess, either because we guessed wrong or the guard blocked us, then the winner is whoever has the most guards in front of them. Now, if both of us guessed successfully, then it's whoever has the most guards in front of us that also wins the game. But then if one person's guess and one person doesn't guess, then it's whoever guess wins the game in that case. So it's really interesting because you want to get the information, but you also need to try to be careful as which card you're keeping in your hand for the final round. And like it was so neat. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was such a cleverly designed game. And it's not just, okay, I'm going to try to figure out, wait, great, I think it's a 3, but I've discarded all my 3s. Like I've discarded all those little cards. I just have big numbers now. I might not get a guess because of that. But it was really neat. It plays fairly quick. I think it plays in about like 15 minutes. So it's a fairly quick game. You can play it again and again. Like it's one of those games that you can play. There's no information that you have to worry about remembering because it's going to be different every time. But I really, really enjoy this one. And that is my number 2, classified information.
Yeah, this one sounds really cool. And does it come in a small little box?
So it comes in a small box that has everything, but you can also get it where there's a pouch and you get like a little bit of a bigger card for taking notes.
Oh yeah.
So depending on how much of the game you get. Now they also come where there's a bunch of different set of cards that you can play with that just gives you different abilities on the cards. So, but like the whole thing is, if you have like the whole thing, it's not bigger than Love Letter Pouch, right? Like it's a small card game, but yeah, no.
Nice. So cool,
really neatly designed
too.
Yeah, 100%.
Perfect. All right. My number 1, I talked about last week, and that was my game played last week, and that's Awkward Guess 2. This one I just love. This is definitely the Clue takeover for me. Having the 2 players, you each design the crime for the other person, which is really cool. And then you roll dice, and those are the actions you can choose. You can re-roll all the dice or any of the dice. And if there's an action you don't want, you can burn it to flip one to one you want to do. And so what you're trying to do is find the killer in what room he started in and moved towards the crime. So there's 4 different rooms. What his weapon was and his motive was. And now how you're doing that is, like I said, with the dice actions, you are trying to figure things out, and you basically, depending what dice you use, you will ask the other player certain questions, or you will just pull from this deck that they have designed for you. And this will help you deduce the path. It'll help you deduce weapons and so on. But it's so smooth and so clean. I just love how they did this game. And the only thing is that it's only 2 players. But a lot of times deduction games, unless it's like a party kind of deduction game, I typically prefer to play with 2, because if you play some deduction games with lots of people, there can be a lot of AP. So this way, you kind of are just the 2 of you. It's like your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn. You're not waiting so long. But this is just an awesome game. I'm glad they made it. I think I had heard some bad reviews about this one, and this is why I didn't jump on it initially. I think there was a Kickstarter, which I didn't back, but I did end up purchasing it when it came to retail. I'm so glad I did. That's my number one. Awkward Guess 2.
Yes, I hear lots of great things about it, and I want to play it. This is another one that I didn't back, and I didn't back it because I have Awkward Guess. So I was like, I don't need more scenarios, really. Like Awkward Guess, you can play it again and again and again anyways. But I didn't realize it changed the game so much. But that brings us to my number one, which is also a game from that series, and this is ScandalOh. So ScandalOh was created after Awkward Guess, which plays very similar to Awkward Guess, but it changes the theme. Now ScandalOh is one that definitely had bad reviews for some reason, and they got selling it stupid cheap. Like I got this one for less than $20. Actually, you found it and bought it for me.
Yeah.
It was unreal. And then I hadn't played it for a long time, and we finally played it in the last couple months here. And I loved it. I might actually like this one a little bit more than Awkward Guess, which I'm surprised with. Now, in ScandalOh, you are trying to figure out which celebrity is part of a scandal and what that scandal is and which newspaper is publishing it. And you'll have cards that'll give you different clues. Now you have your player board that kind of helps you figure out how to record your clues, because you have this big sheet that you can kind of keep track. It's like, okay, so this person is not talking about a romance scandal, so you're gonna put an X across the heart. And then this person is also not publishing about a heart romance, and then you kind of cross that off. But now if you cross off all the heart romance symbols that are being published about, then it's like, okay, well then the scandal is not a heart romance symbol. So you can go at the top of the page and cross off all the scandals that have to do with a heart, that heart symbol that's a romance scandal, because those are not the one in play. Now if you have one is like, okay, well these 3 scandals aren't it, and that's the only one that this particular celebrity could have been involved with, and we know it's not about this celebrity, so you can cross that celebrity out. So it gets a little bit more, I think you got to kind of look at all of the information you're getting a little bit more than like Awkward Guess was a little bit. And because you really be like, okay, so it could be, oh, wait a minute, there's no of these symbols then, so it can't be that, so that's crossed off, and then that crosses off. Like, so you, as you get more information, like you start finding out more and more. Now I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It is thinky though. Like you do have to, like, you do those logic puzzles where you have like the columns and like they can get big and they can get really, this is it. Like this is like this. And I absolutely love that about it. For some people, it's kind of like, this is too much. I have no idea what's going on. So that can happen as well. Now, not an issue. Like I love those logic puzzles. I love those brain burners. And it's like, oh my God, give me more. And then I absolutely adore this game for that. And in fact, I think you playing Awkward Guess 2 and me playing ScandalOh is what made us decide, let's do the deduction list again.
It was.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, because you played this one with me as well when we did our game marathon.
Yeah. And then
so what did you think of ScandalOh?
Yeah. I just finished playing Awkward Guess 2 again, and I think it definitely it goes Awkward Guess 2 and then ScandalOh kind of in difficulty. Yeah. Because that one you can ramp up the difficulty in Awkward Guess 2. I think we just started with one of the beginner ones. So I don't know what it's like, because you can have a not an alibi, but like a when you have like somebody else with you, what's it called?
Yeah, because Awkward Guess does that too, where you have an accomplice.
That's what I mean, accomplice. You can in ScandalOh too?
Well, Awkward Guess you can, so I don't know about ScandalOh. Now, so far with ScandalOh, we've only played it on easy. We haven't played the higher level difficulty. Yeah.
So it's definitely like a level up from that. And then I feel like Awkward Guess 2 it's just a little bit different. Like I would say it's like the same difficulty, but it's just, I find it just more smoother than Awkward Guess. I think it just made more sense to me. I don't know what it is about that, but that they're all really clever games. Like, and I can't believe that they couldn't sell this one, because it's
they must have like
a crowd.
Well, you know what? This is good news for you, because then if you don't own Awkward Guess or
Yeah.
ScandalOh, then it's cheap out there. Go and get it, because
Yeah.
it is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Awkward Guess is not cheap, but well, ScandalOh isn't that price anymore, so it's
Oh, that's
back
right.
up to a
I guess
normal price.
people are aware now.
Yeah.
They might have done that just to get this game out and played, because once you
Maybe.
play it, you realize it's such a good game.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Awkward Guess is going to remain in my collection. ScandalOh is going to stay in my collection. Awkward Guess 2 is going to come into my collection eventually.
Yeah, you'll like it.
So it's just such an amazing series. Yeah.
That's good. Awesome.
Nice.
No crossover.
So that was our top 9 deduction game. Now, so next episode, we're going to be doing our top 9 economic games. And then you started, like you've been posting, and it's an economic game, so it can be on the list. So I'm really looking forward to doing this one. I don't know how many I'll be able to get to the table, because economic games tend to be a little bit bigger, like more crunchy games. So we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping to play lots, but we'll see. But before we call it a day, Carla, where can we find you?
I'm at Instagram. I'm in Instagram at boardgamespecialist, all one word. And on Facebook, I have a page called Red Deer Board Game Fanatics. What about you?
So be sure, first of all, to check out our Discord channel. Actually, Matt just posted. They're amazing. They, at their work, they play every lunch hour. And today they played Caution Sign. So it's such a great, and then they have all the pictures of what they drew. So definitely go check that out. It's so much fun. I am on Instagram at Mel's_boardgame_room. I am also have a Facebook page called Mel's Board Game Room, and my YouTube channel is also called Mel's Board Game Room. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next episode.
Bye for now.